Flagship volunteers. Are you going to use accents? Are you going to?
Am I actually?
That might be a surprise, so we'll save that as a surprise.
You guys have the expectation.
She's using it right now. She's actually Australian. She's using American accent.
Brilliant.
I'm very
That
good
is
at
brilliant. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I know we ask a lot of our volunteers with the Flagship program. It's because we want you to be prepared, and we feel that if you are equipped with the right tools, the right knowledge, that you'll be more successful in your programs, and you'll also have a lot more fun, and it'll be a lot more enjoyable. So Clara, Dave, and I are going to do a presentation for you tonight, an interactive training with you all that will hopefully complement what you've done at practice week this weekend. I guess today was our last practice week day.
For you, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So again, thank you for being here, and if all goes well, I think we'll probably be getting out of here a little earlier than 8 to let you guys go and be free to have your lives outside of Flagship after this week. So we'll introduce ourselves really quickly, and then I'll talk about why we're here, the big points we're going to hit tonight, and then turn it over to Dave to talk about a little bit about Flagship's mission history. Go ahead, Clara.
Okay, so I am Clara, and I work over at Lowell Elementary School. Those of you who are volunteering at Lowell have met me and received several emails from me already, so glad to see you here tonight.
Awesome, and I'm Brian, and I'm at Hawthorne Elementary, and I've been with Flagship for about 3 months now. I've volunteered off and on the last 5 or 6 years, but as the youth development coordinator for the last 3 months.
I'm Dave. I'm over at Franklin, and
David's been doing Flagship forever.
Yeah, Brian and I are new.
two full years.
2 full years, that's a long time. So the reasons why we're here tonight, our desired outcomes that we hope you walk away with is a greater sense of purpose through an understanding of Flagship's mission and history. We don't spend a lot of time on it. This isn't a history class, and I'm sure you guys don't want to be here to learn just about the history of Flagship, but we do want you to understand what Flagship came out of and why it exists in Missoula. Also, a deeper sense of connection to with your teammates and other folks. We have 3 schools represented here. You have probably met most of your team that you'll be teaching your program or your class with, and a lot of the folks who are teaching other programs or classes at your school. But for you guys to get to know each other, see each other, and see that this is quite the movement in Missoula of folks who are volunteering to work with young people after school. Hoping that you gain an understanding of your role as an instructor and the responsibilities therein. We're going to talk a lot about behavior management strategies and techniques that you can employ with your classes that will hopefully help you be successful in delivering whatever lesson it is. Gain an understanding of Flagship and school's policies. We want you to be knowledgeable about what's in that handbook that's in front of you, and hopefully all of you can be able to pick one up. And we'll cover what Flagship policies are so you're aware of what our dress code is, what our if you're late, or what kind of rules we have for termination of a volunteer. Not like killing you termination, but like letting you go kind of termination.
We're training staff.
This is going to be on YouTube, I forgot.
Yeah, it is. Oh, God.
And then also classroom management strategy, talked a little bit about that. So those are the big points we want to cover tonight. I hope you walk away with a good understanding of what those are and how they can help you in your role as a Flagship instructor. I'll turn it over to
All right, so Flagship is about ready to have its 20th birthday. Woo! We started in 1995. We were actually, our mission was to be an alcohol and drug prevention program. Over the last 20 years, that's still our main goal, but we've kind of morphed into something bigger. We actually have a lot of different goals now. Our mission statement, it's a mouthful. The Flagship program is a community school partnership whose mission is to enhance the social, academic, cultural, and physical achievement of Missoula's young people by creating opportunities during non-school hours that help them succeed in school and grow to become healthy adults. And that is all possible because of you. Flagship wouldn't be possible without all the volunteers to make it run. So again, one more time, thank you for being here. Flagship, basically what we try to do is connect resources in the community with the kids in the school. And we've had a couple studies done, and both of the studies came back saying that Flagship works. It's been shown to improve the self-esteem of the kids. It helps the kids to feel more connected to the school. Kids that are in Flagship over a long period of time tend to stay in school and overall have better grades. So Flagship is working, so nice job to all of you. Again, this program wouldn't happen without all of your help. And so right now what I want you to do is just think back to when you were in elementary school or middle school or even high school. I want you to think about a mentor or a coach that you had in your life that inspired you. Who is that person? Why? Why did they inspire you? What was it about them? What made them, what about them made you try harder or keep showing up to whatever it was? What I want you to do is just spend a minute with the people next to you, kind of in your area. Introduce yourself, let them know what school you're going to be working at, and I just want you to kind of talk about what is it about a mentor that makes them, important. So just spend a minute right now, kind of talking amongst yourselves. All right. So, what are some common themes? What are some things that you came up with about a mentor? Somebody throw out one characteristic that a good mentor should have.
A passion for their subject, or a passion for what they're teaching.
Absolutely, a passion for what you're doing. When you guys are coming into the Flagship program, you might not always like the activity that you're doing or what you're doing that day, but if you have that passion, if you have that enthusiasm, kids are going to follow you. So the more passionate that you can be, the more involved the kids are going to be, the better the program's going to go. So that's a great one. Thanks. Anything else? Yeah.
Positivity and encouraging.
Yep, positivity. They kind of go together. If you're having that passion and you're really positive, then it's infectious. The kids are going to be willing to try things that they might not normally want to do if you have that positive attitude. So absolutely. Yeah.
Similar to enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Yep, absolutely. We want that high energy when you guys are coming. So, cherry coke it up before you come. So you have lots of energy.
Lots of happy.
Yep.
We had a genuine interest in the kids.
That is probably one of the biggest things for this program, simply because we have kids that come from some pretty rough neighborhoods. I mean, a lot of our kids have parents who are single parent families. Mom and dad are working a lot. And so a lot of the volunteers are really nervous that, well, I don't know soccer very well, and I'm running a soccer class. It really doesn't matter. The biggest thing is that you're here with the kids, that you're a positive influence in their life. And if you could be in the moment with the kids and listening to them and asking questions and genuinely wanting to be around them, then we win. I mean, that's how all those results from the studies come back saying that we make a difference. It's because of that, because we're there with the kids. They could care less if you're a great, soccer player. They care that you're listening to them. So, thanks for sharing those with those. There's a lot of other characteristics for mentors, and when you're working with the kids, I just want you to think back and kind of, reminisce about the mentors that you've had and what characteristics they had that you really appreciate, and try to incorporate that into working with the kids.
So before we move on, I just want to, this is mine, yeah, okay, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. We have pieces of paper up here. I know it's kind of an awkward place, but if you think of a question, you're worried you might forget it, and it seems like an awkward time to interrupt, you can grab one of these pieces of paper to write it down. Or also, please feel free to jot notes down, jot questions down in your manual. We'll kind of be going through that this evening, so you can follow along, and if you have questions or concerns, write them down. We will have a question and answer session at the end. And of course, obviously, if you have a very pressing question that you want answered immediately, let us know, and we'll get to that. But do kind of keep those things in mind, because we want to get to your questions and concerns as you're having them. Okay, so if you could turn to page 4 of your manuals. I feel too much like I gotta step out from behind my podium.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very professor.
Oh yeah, they're over by the sign up. So if you want to grab, are you Renee?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm glad you made it. And I'm sorry about the confusion. They're the wool ones. Okay, so page 4 is the job description of a flagship instructor. You guys are volunteers. You're giving us your time. We appreciate that so much, and we really want you guys to take this, as seriously as you can. So we have some things that we expect of you within that. I'm not going to read through every single one. I would like you guys to look over this. I'm going to highlight some of the important ones, but this is your job description. If ever you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, check back in with this and make sure that you're upholding these things that we're expecting of you. So specific duties or tasks. Obviously, you're facilitating an activity. So, you're leading science programs or cooking programs or sports programs. That's a big part of it. But I think, the second one on this list should actually be the first one, that you are being a positive role model for students. Like Dave said, that's where we get the results. And results from national surveys are great. They're awesome. What we care about more than that, though, is just that you're actually impacting these students on a daily basis, and that you're helping them out in their lives. The 3 of us can't reach every one of them, so that's why we need the army of you guys to do that. We appreciate it. They appreciate it. It changes people's lives. So thank you for that. Keep being a positive role model. Activities do require planning. We help you with a lot of that planning. We do a lot of that planning for you. As we send you those plans, because we'll give them to you ahead of time, make sure you're looking over them so that even though you didn't write the plan, or maybe you are writing the plan if you're taking that initiative, and that's awesome, but that you show up prepared for your day. So take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, however long, and look over that before you arrive at school so that you are ready when the kids get there. Okay, I'm going to skip down to qualifications. The biggest qualification we ask of you, again, we can't stress it enough, is to be a positive role model. So keep that positivity, keep that enthusiasm, keep that caring for the students. Strong communication skills is a big one. We want to help you guys out as much as possible. We try to help you guys out as much as possible. If you're not letting us know what's going on in groups, we can't do that. So communicate with us, whether that's email, telephone, or stopping by our offices to talk to us about that. And obviously you're working with kids, so being creative and open-minded is a big one, because they're going to come at you from all angles, and being ready for that is great. Well, let's see, other pertinent information. We're at the training, so that's being provided right now. And your benefits are being a positive role model. We like that. That's our catchphrase, positive role model. So thank you for being that, and it will benefit you as well. You're changing young people's lives, and in turn, they're changing yours, ideally, because they've changed mine in a lot of ways. Okay, so if you flip to the next page, page 5, the responsibilities of a flagship instructor. We have walked through some of these at your orientations, your practice week sessions, so I'm just going to go over them very briefly here. Taking attendance. We need to know where the kids are. We need to know that they are safe. So we need you guys to be taking attendance so that we can do that. Reporting accidents. So if there's an accident on the playground, if you're in a sports club and there's an accident, if you're in a science program and a kid gets a slight chemical burn, we're not dealing with highly corrosive substances, but it's always possible. Or if you've got a kid with an allergic reaction, because that definitely can happen. And we'll notify you of those, because we should know about all of those. But those sorts of things, you need to let us know. So you need to handle it, right? But you also need to let us know that that happened, because we do have a reporting process that goes with that. So report that to us. We've got paperwork to fill out. Just keep us in the know. Keeping communication open with the coordinator, so for other things as well, not just major accidents. for minor things. This can also be a positive thing. If things are going great, you have a great relationship with the kids in your program, if you have an awesome story about something that happened that day, we want to hear those too. We love having those highlights, and sometimes we use them for publicity. But we also just like knowing that you guys are having a good time and that they're having a good time. And obviously, if something's not going well, we really want to know about that to help you as well. Promptness, be there on time. The kids are there, they're ready to go, they're excited to go. So the more ready you are, the more ready you'll be, I guess. That's a little redundant there, I guess. Cleaning up is an important one. We are borrowing classrooms from teachers at these schools. These are not our rooms to use. They're being very generous in loaning them to us for these programs. So make sure after snack time that the kids are throwing away their garbage and wiping down their tables. Make sure after any crafts and activities, again, throwing away garbage and wiping down tables. One of the big ones that I missed last night, but Dave reminded me of, is we have materials for you to use and we will provide them for you. Please, please, please don't use any of the teachers' materials. Those are their things. A lot of them come out of their own personal budgets. Leave anything that's on the teacher's desk or in the teacher's cabinets on the desks or in the cabinets. If you run out of stuff, if we haven't given you enough to complete your activities, come up to our offices or even just give us a call and we will get more to you. But we've got stuff for you to use. Please don't dig around in the classrooms for it. Even if the kids say it's okay, it's not. Tracking your hours. A lot of you are getting extra credit for this. A lot of you are just doing it out of the kindness of your hearts. Either way, we appreciate it, but we want to know that you're there when you're there. So we have sign-in sheets at each of the schools. Make sure you're signing in. If you have a timesheet that you need to keep track of for a professor or for a teacher or somebody, make sure you're doing that as well, and we're happy to sign off on those for you. And modeling behavior, being a positive role model. Have we said that enough yet this evening? Positive role models. You know, keep your attitude positive. If you're having a bad day, you need to leave that at the door when you come into Flagship. If the kids are having a bad day, you need to do everything you can to turn their day around, and that starts with you being positive. So the behavior that you want to see out of them needs to be the behavior that you are exhibiting. On to the next.
All right, etiquette with the students. We want you guys to have fun, and this should be a really great experience for all of you. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves, that you're protecting yourselves. And there's a few things to think about when you're working with the kids, just to make sure that that happens. One of them is, avoiding negative situations. And a lot of them are common sense, a lot of them use your gut. But scenarios, for example, if you have a kid who is acting out and you are pulling them out of the classroom to have that one-on-one talk away from everybody else, you want to make sure you're not in a room with the door closed and it's just you. You want to make sure you're in a situation where there's no allegations can be made and other people can witness and be around. So if that's the case, pull them onto the hallway. Pull them into a room and leave the door open. Have another person in the room. Just don't have those situations where you're ever alone with the kid with the door closed. Things like raising your voice, threatening. Some of the kids can be frustrating, they can be difficult, and they can push your buttons. Some of them are really good at figuring out what buttons you have, and then it's a game to try to push it. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping our emotions in check. Realize that these kids, their goal is not to wake up to make you mad. Their goal is not to try to frustrate you. Some of them just have hard lives. Some of them have difficult situations. And they come about their anger or their dysfunction, honestly, and it's not about you. So try to keep your emotion in check. There's a list on page 6 of a bunch of different negative practices to pay attention to. I'm not going to go through all of them. You guys can read that on your own. Another one that's a biggie is the interactions with kids, the touch. These kids are elementary. They're small kids. They need that physical touch. A lot of them don't get that very often at home. And so how do you balance giving that physical touch and that attention, but making sure that you're being appropriate, making sure that you're protecting yourself? And there's a list on page 6 again of do's and don'ts. You want to make sure that you're not messing with their head and their hair in that area. You're going to want to make sure you're not doing anything that can be construed as sexual. So no tickling, no wrestling, no giving massages, those kind of things. Another one that's a biggie is the hugs. Kids are going to want to give you hugs all the time. And you're going to want to protect yourself. So can you do an example? I'm horrible at giving hugs to begin with. My wife makes fun of me all the time because I don't like human contact apparently, so I do the hug, you know. But even that's not going to be appropriate for this. What I do with the kids is I call it the encouraging squeeze. And so what I do is I'll saddle up next to them and kind of put my arm around them and give them that squeeze, you know. And so they're getting that physical touch and they're getting that encouragement, but you're making sure that it's a safe touch. It's can't be construed as anything inappropriate. There's a lot of other things you can do. You can do high fives. You can do ducks. When a kid is sitting down at the table and working on an art project or whatever, you come up beside them and just kind of put your hand just gently on their, and you can bend over and make sure there's space there, but you're giving them that physical touch. So just be aware of that when you're working with the kids.
And you can deflect the hug with a sidearm as well. I'm not going to do this.
Oh, nice.
So, if they're coming in for that and you see it, and you don't want to turn them down, you can just kind of slide in sideways. It's kind of an unfortunate thing to have to be aware of. MCPS, Missoula County Public Schools, as well as I think probably every school nationwide, if not worldwide, has the no drug, no tobacco, no alcohol policy on campus. So nothing any related to that. So even if it's a container for something like that that's empty, none of that can come onto campus. That needs to be left at home. I would suggest not even having it in your car if you're driving, just in case, just to be super safe. So just leave any of that at home. That's us, because we're preventing substance use and abuse, and just kind of common sense. None of it near schools. Also, obviously, please don't use anything on the days that you are coming to Flagship before you come to Flagship, even if you think you really can function and teach a class with a beer. It'll help you relax. Don't do it. It's not worth the risk. That is definitely going to be one of those things when we talk about grounds for termination. That's going to be one of those things. If we find out that there has been use of substances before you've come to programs, that's going to be a big problem for us. So before and obviously during. Just leave it as far away from possible. Enjoy your lives on your own time, on Flagship time. Leave that all behind you. And no tobacco use in the presence of children. We're just hammering it hard. No tobacco, no alcohol, no drugs anywhere near them, before the programs, after the programs. And one of the other big things is talking to the kids about these things. And sometimes the kids themselves will bring it up, even at an elementary level. They'll be like, oh, my dad hangs out at the bars all the time. Like he goes, I've been with them. It's super cool. Find a way to redirect that conversation if the kid brings it up, because they might. I've had them do it. Find a way to redirect. Don't talk to them about these things, even if it seems super harmless. Just avoid the topic. It's safer that way. It's easier that way. And that also, relates to when you're talking to your fellow leaders. While you're in the presence of the kids, even if they're off doing their own thing, don't be talking about a party you're going to go to this weekend. I mean, it's awesome that you're going to a party this weekend. Have fun. Don't talk about that in front of the kids. They'll hear it, even if you think they're occupied. They'll hear it. They'll think that's a cool thing, and they'll spread that around. So no talk about it to them or with other people near them. Just leave that behind you.
Dress code. As you might imagine, we have a dress code, and we can generally say, oh, that's me. We generally say, dress appropriately, and that will mean a couple of different things. I'll share with you what that means when you're dressing appropriately. Appropriate language and branding, even if it's something subtle like my Kettle House hat here, try to avoid any labels for alcohol, tobacco, I want to say drugs, I don't know about marijuana labels, but a big marijuana leaf on your shirt, stuff like that. Stay away from it.
Also like violence,
like guns and sexual innuendos.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that can be a distraction from what we're trying to do as positive role models, we want to avoid. We don't have to do it. We don't have to dress that way. So we want you to dress like yourselves, absolutely, but also avoid those things that have appropriate language or branding. Here's a nice little schematic about adequate covering. A part of appropriate dress is adequate covering, and we ask that means on the shoulders that the shoulders completely covered.
I'm not super strict on that. You? On the whole shoulder?
Oh yeah. No, I mean what is reasonable, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
that's a general rule of the shoulder being covered, no spaghetti straps and bra straps showing, things like that. And for guys, no, what are they called? They're pejoratively referred to as wife beaters, but I don't know what that. What's that?
An A shirt.
A shirt?
That's the title for it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, something like that. We want to dress in a way that's modest, that shows that we're, just wearing a t-shirt or something like that, so we're not a distraction to the students. All undergarments hidden from view, underwear, bra straps like I mentioned, midriff area covered and back covered as well. That should be something you consider when dressing for Flagship. You can have a special spot in your closet for your Flagship dress. Mid-thigh length for bottom garments. The standard test for this that's used for a mid-thigh length is if you can touch your skin and your arms are at your side, your shorts are too short. We talk about that with students, and that's a good way to measure yourself too. Opaque clothing for materials for tops and bottom. Again, we're trying to be as modest as possible and not have our clothing be a distraction from what we're trying to do with the kids. Appropriate footwear. A lot of you will be doing a variety of activities, including field trips, sports. You want to make sure first that the students have appropriate footwear, absolutely, and for yourself, being prepared with appropriate footwear, wearing shoes if you need to. Sandals are usually okay in a school, so long as you're not doing something active or that would require more protection of your feet. A cooking class, for instance, when you're using knives, you're going to want the kids and yourself probably to wear closed-toe shoes. Be aware of that. Oftentimes our schools, I don't know, you guys probably have this too, but we have a shoe bin with kiddie-size shoes, but not adult-size shoes. So come prepared with the shoes that you need and the footwear that you need for the program. And what are these hats called?
Riding helmets?
Riding helmets, no riding helmets. Hats are, depending on what school you're in, there's different rules around hats, but for our elementary schools, the general rule is inside school, hats are not to be worn. No hats are worn. Outside of school, it's fine when you're out in the playground or when you're on a field trip. It's usually fine to wear hats, but we try to follow the same rules as our students are expected to follow at school. And cell phone use, this is a huge one. How many times are we just find ourselves texting, not mindlessly, but second nature, we whip out our phones. We want you guys to give the kids your full attention, which means when you're at Flagship, highly encourage you to mute your phones, put it in a bag, set it aside, and forget about it for the hour and a half or 2 hours you're with Flagship. I promise you can go that long without checking your email or Facebook or phone messages or text. Obviously, if you're expecting a call or have a family emergency, there's something that's pending that you're expecting and need the phone, have it with you. We just ask that you use common sense on that because it's so obvious, and we know this even as adults when we're with somebody and they're pulling out their phone and they're checking it. We know we're not the full focus of their attention. They're distracted by something else, and the kids pick up on that so easily. So I encourage you to use your cell phone with care and seriously just mute it, turn it off, whatever you need to and hide it away for the duration of your program.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I was going to say the one exception to that, well, one of the exceptions to that would be if you're going on a field trip
Yes.
or if you're off campus, please do check your phone to see if it's us. If it's not us, then everything that Brian said applies. Please, just put it back in your pocket, take care of those calls later if they're not an emergency. But sometimes we'll have a parent call and say, hey, I'm actually going to pick up little Billy at Currents today, so he's not going to catch the van home. And then we need to get a hold of you to let you know that, or whatever the situation might be. So sometimes we're going to give you that call and fill you in on things. So check the phones if you're away from school.
That's a really good point. And even if you're on school, it's probably a good idea to have someone in your group, if you're on the premises, to have a phone with them, muted, whatever you need to do to silence it, in case you have an emergency on campus or you need to, for some reason, aren't able to get a hold of us. Find us in the school, you're able to contact us if we're not in our offices.
All right. For Flagship, we are mandatory reporters. When kids are talking with you about abuse or neglect or things that have happened to them, you have to report that. We are mandatory reporters. Our job is not to try to figure out whether or not the kids are telling the truth. I mean, you might have those kids that you feel like embellish and make things bigger than they are or out lie. Not our job to figure that out. Our job is to take that information and to report it. So a few things when you're talking with the kids, you need to really listen focus in on what they're saying, let them tell the whole story. And make sure that you come across as believing what they say. Give them that opportunity to talk. Get all of the details out of it. Reassure the student, give them that support. But be careful not to make promises. You'll have kids that you can't keep. Some kids are going to say, hey, I really like you, I really trust you, so I'm going to tell you this, but you can't tell anybody else. And you need to be right up front with them, hey, I really appreciate that you have that trust in me, that you're going to share this information, but I am going to let other people know because we really care about you, and if it's important information, we have to do that. So just be really upfront with them that you are going to share that with other folks. And that is because we care about them. Come to the flagship coordinator right away. Let us know what the situation is, and if we need to call in, we may have you make that call depending on what it is, because you're the person that the child told directly. And we'll help you with that process. It's really straightforward and simple. There's also some paperwork that we might have to do after that, and again, we'll sit down with you and we'll help get that paperwork done. Let's see. I think that's all on that.
Okay. So talking to parents and guardians, right, the parents are going to be picking up the students from these programs, so it's nice to take a minute or two to check in with them when they're picking their student up. And sometimes a parent might approach you and have questions about the program or concerns about something their child has mentioned. So definitely take that time and interact with the parents if you think it's necessary. And just like interacting with us, it can be both a positive thing or, if you need to talk to them about an issue with their student. But I encourage you to tell those success stories, briefly. Like, oh, he was awesome today. This is great. So make sure, though, that when you are talking to them, you're only talking to them about their child. You don't need to know the problems that are going on with other students in the classroom. They don't need to hear about, Billy had an issue today, but it was really Jimmy's fault. He totally started it, so don't worry about it. Just talk to them about their kid and the issues that happen with their kid. And make sure that you're starting and ending positively. So if it's a problem that you've had with the student and you need to address their parent about it, if you're addressing their parent, it's probably a minor issue. If it's a major issue, we will most likely be either making that phone call home or coming into the class to chat with the parent at the end of the day. But try to keep it as positive as possible. I mean, yes, we had to talk to him a couple of times today. Jimmy was having issues. He came in, was grumpy. But by the end of the day, man, he was participating. He was having a great time. We'd like to work with you a little bit and see how we can make it so that he's having a great time all week next week. Keep it as positive as you can. We don't want to be making these parents angry with their children. We don't want to be sending children home with parents that are like, oh my gosh, Jimmy, you're never going back to Flagship. You're awful. So yeah, just keep it positive, both when you're talking with the children about problems that you may have to address with them and when you're talking about their parents. It's really important. And cite the specific behavior that you're seeing with their student. Most of the times they're going to want to help you also. They're going to want to help you, they want to help the teachers. They're also trying to work through this behavior with their child. So tell them exactly what's been going on. If they get really distracted during, reading time and they just kind of like stand up and walk around the classroom and they have trouble focusing, let them know exactly what's happening and exactly like when it's happening. Sometimes it's a time of day, sometimes it's a certain activity that'll set a kid off, and they might have some feedback for you right then in that moment, or they might, with that information then be able to go home and work with their child a little bit on that. But if you don't let them know, specifically what's been happening, just like us, if you don't let us know, then they can't help you and support you in that. So make sure you're letting them know. One thing with talking to parents and also with talking to students, don't give out your cell phone number. Sometimes they will want this, both the students, because they will have that friendship with you, they'll have that relationship, and they'll be like, hey, I want to call you someday. Don't give out your personal cell phone numbers. It's really important not to give that out to the students and not to give that out to the parents. Never mind. Well, no, I just thought this went in a different order than it does. Okay, so grounds for termination. Is this yours or is this?
That'll be mine.
Okay.
I'll talk about this.
Oh. Interesting.
My favorite subjects. I don't know which page it's on.
It's on page 8.
Page 8. Grounds for termination are listed. We ultimately, as youth development coordinators, are looked at as responsible for the quality of volunteers that we have and their interactions with the students and the safety of the students. That's our top priority. That's what's expected of us from our schools, our principals, and our bosses at Flagship. So if you are in a position, you have listed before you, I won't enumerate on all of these bullet points, but listed below you reasons for grounds for termination. And this isn't an exhaustive list. If we have a situation arises that it's no longer safe for the students, no longer good for the students, healthy for them, we will ask you to leave your post as a Flagship volunteer. It doesn't happen often. It's not like you guys are on a grading scale or like, well, you're not, kids aren't happy enough around you. That's not our thing. It's really looking at that you're following the rules and talking the policies we're following here. If those, we'll talk to you, for the most part, a lot of these will follow up and say, hey, this isn't going to work. We're going to ask you to change your behavior or change what you're doing. And if it persists, then we would ask you to leave and not be part of the Flagship program any longer. A couple of highlights here. Violation of school policies. We convey to youth, a lot of these are school policies that we share with you. They're Flagship policies and school policies. It's kind of like school policies have informed our Flagship policies. So you should be well aware of those and have a good understanding of the Flagship policies and school policies that apply to you through your practice week and through this evening. So if you do have any questions about your school policies, please ask one of us. We'll help clarify or give you more information. But we hope that you're in a pretty good place when we start programs next week from these couple of trainings. Secret keeping with children and parents. That's a big one. Again, we try to keep open communication lines because we need to know what's going on with the student and with their parents as well, so that we can help the situation whenever it is. So we ask that you're open with us and maybe consult with us before you even need to address a parent about an issue that you're having, if it's a serious one. And you open up that one with us. And like Dave talked about when he talked about mandatory reporting, you don't keep secrets with kids. It's mandatory reports if it's something that is reportable. You want to be honest with the kid, and then it's your responsibility to report that. Any other points on this?
Okay, I guess the cell phone thing kind of goes into this. When programs end, you have to end your communication with the students. We want you to build these positive relationships. We love that you guys are positive role models, but you're positive role models within the Flagship program. It should be a relatively professional relationship. Even though it's a friendly, professional relationship, it should be professional. So when that program ends, you're done with those kids. You can't have a personal relationship with them after the end of the program. So that's one of the reasons you don't give your phone numbers to the kids or to the kids' parents, so that they're not, trying to call you and say, oh, hey, you were great in Flagship. Will you come babysit little Jimmy? Because that might happen. So it's, it's for you, it's for them. We just need to make sure that this is happening, and it makes it easier for everybody if you don't say, oh, I know Flagship's ending this week, but we can totally hang out again. Let them know, I really enjoyed working with you. Really enjoyed getting to know you. This was awesome. Goodbye. And that can be really tough, but it needs to happen. So make sure that when programs end, those relationships are also ended. And if you come back and volunteer, maybe you'll get to, again, if you come volunteer for Flagship again, maybe you'll get to interact with those kiddos that you really enjoyed interacting with again. But in the meantime, please close your relationships with them. And now we have a break. So we're a little bit ahead of time, ahead of schedule. What we can do is shorten the break if you guys are interested. If you want your 10 minutes, take your 10 minutes. But if you would like to take a little bit of a shorter break, break time over. Okay, so now we are into the behavior management portion of this evening's entertainment. Kids, they make faces like that, and it's fantastic. But we're going to help you guys deal with when it's not just goofy faces and playing around. When you've got some serious issues that you're needing to deal with. We're going to give you a little toolkit for that. Obviously, we're always around to help you guys, so if it's beyond your comfort level, contact us. We're at the school, we're floating around, we're there to help you guys. So let us know. But hopefully it won't get there. Hopefully it'll all be a good time. So one of the important things with managing behavior is just building relationships with your students. Is there? There it is, yes. Second slide. So this is going to be huge for your kids. If you have a positive relationship with them, if they respect you, if they like you, they're less likely to, to act out in these negative ways and to want to torture you. So try to build those relationships with them. One of the biggest things, one of the first steps is learning their names. If it gets to week 3, week 4 of programs and you're still calling all the boys, hey bud, and you're calling all the girls, oh hi, how are you? They're going to notice that you don't know their names. And that's important to them, that you know who they are, that to you they are an individual. So find a way to do that, whether it's making name tags the first couple of weeks, and if that's what you want, let us know and we'll make sure you've got the materials for that. Whether it's playing a name game at the beginning of every day, just find some way that's going to help you remember these students' names and remember them as individuals. That'll mean a lot to them. Activities and games, that's a good way to get to know your students, to get to know their names, to get to know their behaviors. You can kind of observe them through these activities and games and get to know them just by watching them play, which is awesome. Exhibiting investment, so being interested in your students, listening to them when they have a story to tell you, listening to them when they come to you with a problem, just taking the time to care about them on an individual level, and listening intentionally when they come to you with those stories. So that goes back to kind of the cell phones or anything else you could be distracted with. They're telling you a story. Make sure that they have your full attention during that time. It's very important to them to have your attention. And sometimes there may be group activities where you're having people tell stories in a group, people do read-alouds, or like a question and answer session. Try to make sure that everybody is listening intentionally then. Sometimes kids get distracted and they'll start fidgeting and they'll start talking. Say, right now we're trying to give Bobby our ears and later we'll be giving you our ears, but for right now, can we settle down, make sure that we're at our 0 voices, that's a big one at Lowell at least, the 0 voices, and give him your respect. So try to create that intentional listening among your students. Sensitivity to circumstances. So sometimes you're going to have a kid who does come in a negative frame of mind, and maybe something bad's going on at home, maybe something bad just happened at school. Try to be sensitive to that, even if you don't have the whole story. Just be aware that something might be going on that you don't know about, and take that into consideration when dealing with that student. So maybe that student needs a separate activity for a little while that day. You're trying to get them engaged, they're just not having it, and it's obviously not going to turn around and go right. Maybe have, like, okay, Susie, you can sit over here and color for 20 minutes, or maybe 5 minutes, start with 5, but you can sit over here and color for 5 minutes. I'll check back in with you. Take the time that you need. So just be sensitive to those circumstances and don't always force them to do what you want them to do just because it's what's on the lesson plan. Sometimes it's not going to work. And creating a safe environment. The kids want to, they want to feel comfortable, they want to feel secure. This is one of our behavioral initiatives at school, is be safe. So they have some rules themselves to follow for being safe, and you guys should figure out some of those for creating a safe space. Part of this is creating a routine, which we've gone over during orientations, just so that they know what to expect when they come into the classroom. Part of this is being consistent, so that they get to know you, and they get to know your name, and they recognize you, and they feel safe and comfortable around you. So create that safe space. And this will help you a lot in dealing with behavioral issues, or not having to deal with behavioral issues, hopefully.
Right. So all 3 of the schools, whichever school you're in, all 3 of them implement the Montana Behavior Initiative, which is simply trying to have positive interventions with the kids. And just like we're trying to follow all of the school rules, even though it's after school, we still have those same rules. We're going to try to implement those same strategies. And there's a lot of different areas to that, a lot of things to cover. First and foremost, you want to have positive interactions with the kids. You want to reward that positive behavior. You're going to get it's going to be a lot more effective with the kids, getting that change that you want to reward the positive behaviors, the desired behaviors, than it is to have consequences for them. So simply catch kids being good. When kids are doing what you want them to do, give them that praise, give them that attention, let them know that they're doing really well. That's going to go a lot farther in having your class behave than just having consequences. And when you're giving that positive behavior, you want to try to be as specific with the kids as you possibly can. So instead of, hey, good job, really be specific with what that behavior was. wow, I really like the way that you were raising your hand right there. You did a great job of raising your hand before you talked. That was awesome. Nice work. So try to be as specific with those as you can. Each one of the schools also has other ways to try to implement the positive behavior and the rewards. Each school is a little bit different. At my school, we're the Bulldogs, the Franklin Bulldogs. So we have Proud Paws. And those Proud Paws are recognizing the kids when they're doing something really well. We fill it out, we give them praise for whatever it was that they did, and then they can take that and turn it in with their teachers and get rewards for it. I know over at Clara's school, she has the Star Student of the Day, and that student gets to have a little reward at the end. Other things that you can do is try to give little rewards for kids for motivation, like who gets to be the line leader, who gets to pick what the activity is going to be for the day. Especially with the younger kids, that can be powerful motivators for them. So try to use those positive incentives as much as you can. Motivate your students. A lot of the times they need a reason to follow the rules. A great example would be kids are being rowdy. You're telling them they need to be quiet. It's not working. Use the leverage that you have to motivate them. So an example might be, wow, I know you guys really want to go out for recess and that's what we're getting ready to do, but we don't go out for recess until everyone's quiet and voices are at 0. So when everyone can line up quietly, voices are at 0, then we'll go out for recess. Use those motivators where if the behavior you want doesn't happen, they don't get the things that they want. So try to motivate the kids. Making a point is simply addressing inappropriate behavior without calling the kid out in front of everybody else. So rather than stopping the class and having that interaction, that does a couple things. With some kids, it may work. With other kids, it may be exactly what they're wanting. They want that attention in front of everybody, and that can actually escalate the situation. Some kids don't care if it's a negative interaction, they just want attention. And so that could actually increase the negative behaviors. Other kids, it could be really shaming and hurtful, and they're going to shut down and you're going to lose them. So with some of the kids, you're going to want to point those behaviors out away from the class. And there's different ways of doing that. It can be really simple. It can be the dramatic pause when you're having the conversation. And it might be giving that teacher look or that mom look and just kind of give them the stare down. My mom's got it down huge. She raises the one eyebrow, whoo, you're in trouble. And it's like, I still cringe. So you can do that mom look. Proximity, if someone's acting out, you can be right in the middle of the conversation and just kind of go over and stand by them, and do one of these and then keep talking, and they recognize that, oh, yep, they're paying attention to me, they know they're not doing what I'm supposed to be. So there's a lot of those little things that you can do to address the behavior without having to just call them out. Really important to take a moment and think about what you're going to say to the kids, because it's crucial that you follow through with what you say you're going to do. These kids can push buttons. They can be frustrating at times. And in the heat of the moment, you might make an empty threat, or you might make a threat that you cannot follow through on. That is going to make the situation way worse. They're going to perceive you as weak. They're going to perceive you as not following through. Again, it's going to increase that negative behavior. You have to follow through on what you're going to say. So again, make sure it's something that you can do. And then once you say that, follow through every time. Be consistent every time. The more consistent you are with the kids, the less those behaviors you're going to see. The consequences should be logical. And what they mean by that is point out what's going to happen. Point out that it's going to be logical consequences. And they, again, have choices. They always have those choices. And what they decide is either going to end up with a good consequence or a bad consequence. So a great example might be if you are doing a group activity and you have a group game, and you've had to talk to one student a few times, and they're continuing to complain, they're continuing to cause problems, they're continuing to interrupt the class. The conversation might be something like, we had a conversation a couple times, and you're continuing to act out. So really, your choices at this point is to follow the rules like we talked about and agreed upon, or you can choose to sit out for the rest of this activity. Go ahead and your behaviors are going to let me know what your choice is. So give those choices of, what the positive thing is, and then if they continue, what the negative thing is going to be. And as long as we're on choices, I want to talk about that for a second. As far as behavior management, in my opinion, if you take away one thing from this, if you can remember one thing, the most useful thing that you can take away. Give choices to your kids as much as you possibly can. And that doesn't mean, take the time out or not take the time out. You need to be in charge of what those choices are, and you need to be okay with what those choices are. But by giving choices, you give the kids power. You give the kids a sense of being listened to and being in control. And it can be simple. If you have a conversation with a kid and you're getting frustrated and you feel like they need a timeout, and you say, this is the third time I've talked to you, you need a timeout, you need to go out into the hallway. That is an ultimatum. That is not giving choices. And what are you going to do when the kid says, no, I don't need to? You've painted yourself into a corner and you've just made conflict. If you give choices, now the kid has an out. You can say, hey, we've had a conversation 3 times, you're continuing to do it, your behavior's telling you that you need a timeout right now. You think you need 3 minutes or you think you need 5. And the kids might respond angry and upset, but it's amazing how well it works. I only need 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes, great. Do you think you need to wait out in the hallway, or can you go ahead and have a seat over in the corner in the class here? I'm going to go over to the corner in the class. Great. Go ahead and take that 3-minute time out, and I'll check in with you, and then your behavior will tell me whether you're ready to join the group or not. Simple, tiny choices that are insignificant, but not to the kid, because they're feeling like they have power, and they're feeling like they're being heard. And give choices, even when it's not just consequences, throughout the day as much as you can. Give the kids the power. It can be as simple as, hey, do you want to go for recess right now? Or do you think we should finish this project and go up for recess in 15 minutes? Do we want to do this game, or do we want to do this game? And give simple choices where you can. And then when you do have to call the shots and you do have to say, nope, we're doing it this way, the kids are going to be less likely to be upset or have problems with it, because most of the time they're feeling heard. Most of the time they're getting the choice. So give choices whenever possible. That's going to really, really help just eliminate those conflicts that could arise. Another strategy is to try new things, try new strategies. If you're having a kid that it seems like every week there's a problem, every week that there's an issue, and it's like banging your head on a wall over and over, try something new. I had a class last year it was a tough class. They had some tough kids. And about the 3rd or 4th week in, they said, hey, Dave, do you have just star stickers? I'm like, sure. You have some construction paper we can have? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? They're like, man, we just can't get the kids motivated. They're just really acting out. We're having a hard time. And so they tried a new strategy. They simply started giving out stars, like 1 star per day if you did a certain behavior, 2 stars per day if you had even better behavior. And then those stars added up to a simple little reward, like getting to be the line leader or getting to pick the activity. And by the next week, the negative behaviors diminish greatly just by trying a new strategy. So, if you ever get stuck on what should we do, I feel like it's not working, that's when you check in with Brian or Clara and I, and we might have some ways to help you out. So check in with us, that's what we're here for, is to try to make this experience better for you, give you some tools. The other one that works well is separating the student from the group. Again, some of those kids, they just want to push buttons. They just want to be the class clown. They want to get that attention, even if it's negative. And you can eliminate that attention from the group by just taking them somewhere else. This goes back to what we talked about earlier. Don't take them into a room and close the door. You want to protect yourselves, but pull them out into the hallway. Teachers can be walking by. There's other people. And just have that heart-to-heart. And one really good strategy is to listen to the kids. Give them an opportunity and just show that empathy right away. Rather than starting out with, hey, this isn't okay, I've talked with you numerous times, start out the conversation with, what's going on today? I'm really concerned. I mean, you're normally not this disruptive. I'm really worried about you. Can you tell me what's going on today? Wow, I mean, that just really disarms a kid right there. They're ready for a battle. They're preparing to get into trouble. And all of a sudden, you're empathetic and letting them talk. That can really disarm them, hear their side of it. And that doesn't mean they get away with what the behaviors were. Listen to what they said and have that empathy for them, and then say, that's really hard, that's really difficult, I'm sorry that's going on for you, but unfortunately, we can't have these behaviors in this class, and I know you're a really good kid. I need you to change what you're doing. And then go on from there with your conversation. But by pulling them away, you can have a conversation sometimes that's a little more real, and you can disarm them by having that empathy and giving them a chance to talk. And that's it for mine. Any questions or comments? That was a lot to cover for the behavior management. Are there any questions or comments on that?
So what happens when you get to a point where your redirections, you're moving a student to a different part of the room because they're having a difficult time interacting with another student, and they're continually disruptive, they aren't responding to these logical consequences and choices that you're giving to them. We have a method for managing that. And if you look on page, you guys have probably found it already. Oh, there it is, page 13. You'll see the flagship behavior matrix, and actually this is a modified version from what I think all of our schools have, something like this.
Way more
A
confusing.
little bit more, yeah, it's a lot more complicated than this. But this outlines the process by which you observe behaviors and make decisions about the severity of that behavior, and go through the process and working with the student, because we all want the students to succeed. Our goal isn't to have them act out so we can get them out of there, kick them out of flagship. Our goal is if they are acting out or having difficulties, that we can help them modify behaviors that are probably happening during their school day, and help them be a better student. So you see from the top, observing problem behavior. Obviously, if it's emergency, and I'll talk about the difference between minor and major behaviors. If it's a major behavior that you're very concerned about that has happened once, like a student's totally fine and then one day they just punch another kid on the playground, obviously that's cause of a major behavior. I'll show you what those are to alert us right away so we can intervene and make sure that the student gets the proper recourse there. And I'll show you the flagship discipline referral form. And then if the problem isn't a major problem, if it isn't one that requires immediate attention with us, but is something you think you can manage, a student is being loud consistently while you're trying to give instructions, use proactive cues and responses to help modify, change that student's behavior. Using logical consequences are a great one. You can participate now the way that we're supposed to finish the project, or you can be disrupted, you can sit in the hallway and you won't have the opportunity to finish the project today. It's really up to you. It doesn't matter to me. I would actually really like you in here. But it's up to you and your behavior. That will show me where you want to sit today. Continue to come up with strategies to help that student change and help them find a way that they can participate appropriately that day. If the behavior continues, your redirection, your strategies just aren't working with that student, it persists, then you move down into this diamond shape that says if behavior is major or minor. And if you look on the next page, it has behavior examples and it lists an example of different minor and major behaviors. And what I will say about these lists as you're looking through them, some of them is context. So for instance, let's see, there is, actually these are written pretty well, but I mean, if you think about obscene behavior, or in the instance of like punching, obviously you're using discernment. Okay, the student's like, they're swinging their arm, they're getting ready for a kickball or something like that, and they're getting ready and they swing their arm and they hit another kid in the face and hit a volunteer. It's an accident. And sometimes it's difficult because you're not there to observe it, but you can get those students aside and talk to them individually and talk about what happened. Sometimes it's perceived as the other kid intentionally harming them. In fact, I had an incident at Currents this summer where I heard a blood-curdling scream over all the noise in Currents, and I saw this woman lifting up two of my kids out of the water and setting them, I think they're both kindergartners, yeah, they're going into first grade, and set them on the side of the pool. And I walk over to the kids, I check in on them, and the one of them says, the other one tried to drown him. And I'm immediately like, okay, it doesn't sound, and the kid that he said was trying to drown him didn't sound like him at all. I'd never seen anything like this. And I talked to both of them for a little while, and what I gathered is that one of the kids was struggling to swim. He got into a deeper section, and the other kid was trying to help him, but they're two kindergartners. They can't help each other out of a deep pool. So he ended up sinking. They ended up sinking each other. And the one kid was really upset. He's like, he tried to drown me, he tried to drown me. And we ended up talking about it. I talked them through individually what had happened, how it had gone down, and be left with understanding of what had occurred. But of course, if you read that on face value, you go, well, that kid's out of Flagship. He can't be doing that. He can't be horsing around to the point where he could have got seriously hurt or died. But it's context. A lot of these behaviors are, but these are great lists of minor and major behaviors that you can look through and get familiar with what we mean when we talk about minor and major behaviors. And if it is a minor, again, use logical consequences like Dave talked about. If it continues and you just aren't finding an end to it, we have what's called the Flagship Discipline Referral Form. It closely mirrors what they have during school, which is an office discipline referral form. And I think there's a copy of it, on the following page. And if it persists, get one of us, call us if you're off-site, or get one of us if you're on-site, and we can walk you through how to use the Flagship Discipline Referral Form. The gist of it is 3 minors make a major. So if they get 3 discipline referral forms for the same persistent behavior, we'll seriously consider dismissing that kid from Flagship and not allowing them to participate anymore. And what you'll see is it's more or less an interview with the student. You're helping them identify why it is you're having this conversation. A big part of our discipline is that. So we're asking, what did you do? What could you have done differently? What would you do to be successful when you rejoin your Flagship activity? And what can we do to help you be successful? You're trying to come alongside the kid and help him or her. All boys are bad at implied that. So that's something that you would do with us. You don't have to memorize this and be concerned like, wow, I'm going to have to decide when do I give an FDR. That's our affectionate name for this, the FDR. When do I give this out? If you have questions about it, if a behavior persists, we're floating around throughout the day. Pull us aside and say, hey, listen, I'm just having difficulties. We may be able to troubleshoot it and help you fix it. It may mean a Flagship discipline referral right there on the spot. So talk to us. We'll have these on hand, and they'll probably be in your boxes too, or with your materials, so you can have these. So that's what you do if, back to the matrix, if the behavior continues, it means a Flagship discipline referral form. If it persists, this goes home to the parents sign it when they show up, they can look at it, you can talk to them about the behavior, we can talk to them about the behavior, and then the parent signs it and they agree to this course of action. If it persists, get a second referral, and then a third referral, we'll look at letting the kid out, dismissing the Flagship. If you go to the major side, the right side of the matrix, you'll see that you will immediately bring that student to the Flagship coordinator if one of these behaviors, for instance, fighting on the playground, tobacco, drugs, weapons, obscene language or behavior, stealing, chronic dishonesty, gambling, I love that on there. I think about that with kindergartners sometimes. Forgery, inappropriate touching, aggressive behavior, physical contact. If you see any of these behaviors or something, like I said, it's not an exhaustive list, that you think might be major, talk to us and bring the student with you, and we can talk through how we want to address it. And oftentimes that means an immediate Flagship discipline referral form rather than like let's redirect and let's get out. And it may actually mean dismissal from the program if it's severe enough that student may be dismissed and not given a second chance if it isn't something that we deem is unsafe for other students.
Okay, so some behavioral management tips. These are 10 just like super simple, straightforward behavioral management tips, and they are also in your manuals, but I believe they are before that matrix. I think they're the page, yes, those pages, what are those? 11 and 12. Okay, so, sorry, my manual I think has been stolen. So, pages 11 and 12, we've got some behavior management tips and then also some student engagement tips. These are super helpful, super simple. Also, these will be included in your materials, so if you don't have your manual handy in your back pocket, you'll still have these to refer to if you're dealing with some issues. So again, the praise, keeping things positive as far as possible. That's gonna help you so much if you can keep things positive. Obviously, unfortunately, we cannot always keep things entirely 100% positive. Sometimes we do have to step in there with those consequences. So when you do have to do that, I'm going to skip over, boundaries and expectations is very important, but consistency with those consequences is huge. Just maintain that as much as possible. Redirecting, so if they're following a behavioral pattern that you can see is going to lead to either the minor or the major issues that we touched on, try to redirect that behavior. If they're super active, if they've got the crazy energy that is maybe endangering other students. I actually had a teacher suggest once to me, say, oh, Jack sometimes gets a little crazy. Have him run around the building once or twice. And not the whole school building, we had a little modular in back, but if you're in one of those classrooms and one of the kids just can't contain themselves, sometimes you just need to redirect that energy. Say, hey, why don't you go do 10 jumping jacks over there in the corner, and then come back and see if you can pay attention to this activity. But just kind of find a way to give them an outlet for whether it's energy or emotion or something that's positive before we have to go to our disciplinary referral forms or something less major. But special jobs is a big one. Special jobs like being line leader and things like that are great rewards. They're also really, really helpful for students who are having a hard day. A lot of students want to help you. Even if they are acting out, even if it's like, oh my gosh, this kid is driving me crazy. They just want a purpose. And so if you're like, could you go pick up the trash from all of the tables? Usually we want all of the students to pick up their own trash, but sometimes if you give that as a special job to somebody, they'll be like, oh, okay, and do it. And it's another way of redirecting. So special jobs for I don't want to call them problem students, for students who maybe are having issues on a day, can really, really be helpful. Using your names and removing the audience. I think we've gone over a lot of these, but do look at these. So they're really important and really helpful to use. Just going to dive right into engagement tips. Attention getters is a huge one. So if they're doing a fun, active activity and you're having trouble kind of calming them back down so you can give them instructions to go to the next activity, or if their parents are here to pick them up and the students are just running around like crazy in the classroom, and you're like, we've got some attention getters for you. For me, these are, again, in your binders or your materials at the school. But look over these and figure out which ones that are going to work for you, and go over them on the first day with your kids. Say, one of the big ones is just going, iceberg, iceberg, and all the students freeze. So that's a good one if you're playing an active game and they're running around and you yell iceberg, iceberg, and they yell freeze and they freeze. And freezing is your body, your mouth. It's everything. You go silent and you go still. So there are some that involve clapping, and if you've got a loud group and you can't yell loud enough to get over them. So just find the ones that are going to work for your activities, for the energy level of your group. Figure something like that out. It'll be very helpful. Limited downtime. Got games. I think we all have games. So if you're having trouble with transitions, if lesson plans aren't lasting the duration of the lesson, put a game in there, put something in there so that they're not twiddling their thumbs, you're not twiddling your thumbs, because that's when problem behaviors will take over. Thinking ahead, being prepared, being engaged in your, I think that's delivery of instruction, being engaged, finding a cool way to do it instead of, okay guys, here are our rules. Be engaging, be creative with that. A bunch more. I'm gonna have gone over those and let you guys go over the rest. If you have questions about them, of course, please ask us. But
be mindful of your attention getters. I once tried with the Hopper Hawks. I was like, all right, let's try this one. It was more of an experiment than anything. It's like, when I say hawks, you guys screech like hawks. Ooh boy. That was in the gym.
Yes,
that was exciting.
Yeah,
Exciting moment.
Thinking through. Think about how much you guys can stand too. Woohoo! Questions and answers. So we are almost to the end. This is where we're opening it up for your guys' questions. So if you have any questions about anything we have covered or anything you feel that we may have forgotten to cover, there are more pages in your manual than what we have gone over. So we want you to read these manuals. We want you to look at them. They're super helpful. One of the most awesome things in there that I didn't realize until I'd already been a volunteer for like a year, I didn't even see it, is the characteristics of different age groups. That's towards the end. It says, like 5 to 8, 9 to 12, breaks them into age groups. And I read these and I was like, whoa, mind blown. That's why I can't get them to do this thing that I've been trying to get them to do. So they're really simple. It's just a couple of little cues, but they are super helpful because, there are some things a 5-year-old just will not do because their brain is not there yet. And if you keep trying to get them to do it, they're going to get frustrated, you're going to get frustrated. So read over those, they're super helpful. Was there anything else in the manual? I mean, just make sure that you're reading the manual, even the things that we didn't cover, because it is all important. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and let you guys ask questions. Yeah.
How old are fifth graders?
Usually 11.
10, yeah, 10 or 11.
10 to 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will we ever be given a heads up if we have kids that have special needs or are?
As much as we can, we'll let you know behaviors to watch for and some strategies also for working with students that may have some special issues going on.
Similarly, I had the question today at my practice week about allergies, special dietary needs. That will be listed on your attendance sheet for me. Any special dietary things or concerns you need to be aware of, and behavior issues as well. And I know for myself, I'm going to try to talk to each instructor who has students who may be at a little higher risk about the students and how we can approach the students.
And some of them may even have support. I've got a couple of kids who are going to have support in their programs, so that may be a thing too, and we'll let you know about that as well.
You guys could do our jobs after this week.
Yeah. Yeah, with the practice week and with the trainings, we'll have you guys do it in the winter then. Evaluations?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And if you guys do have any questions, obviously, you can email us, you can call us, you can get in touch with us. Just because you didn't ask it tonight doesn't mean that's the end. You have ample opportunity for addressing any issues that might come up.
We do have evaluations. This is our first time doing
Go ahead
this.
and turn on the
Oh, that'd be great. I realized when I checked the camera, it was out of focus for like 20 minutes. It's great. It's going on YouTube. This is the evaluation of our training. This is the first time we've done something like this. We revisited all of the training that we do this year and decided, gosh, we'd really like to give our instructors and volunteers more. And your feedback is greatly appreciated. It's just one sheet. Hopefully you go pretty quickly. If you need a pen, let us know.
You've got some more? Pencil's fine, yeah, whatever you can do.
There's,
Do you have a?
Yeah, pencils are up to That's just,
You got one.
so originally, we didn't know what this group was going to be like. And sometimes it
maybe else not good.
Next 3 hours we're going to spend building bipolar things.
Anybody else need a pen?
Do you, oh, never mind.
Just letting him take care of everything. Anything else? Pens? Evaluations?
And when you're done with your evaluation, you're welcome to take off, and we've got some more food if you want to take some with you. You can put your evaluations right up here on the corner of this table. Thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate your time and commitment to Flagship.
And you're also welcome, if you haven't met your group mates yet, to mill about if you want and meet the other people who are volunteering at your schools or at other locations. So you can take off, you can chat, you can come ask us questions in private if that makes you uncomfortable, whatever.